God never lies. He never lies. He never, ever lies. Isaiah, he never lies. Isaiah is our Samuel. Why you say that? Because, Tanya, I heard you say at least 3 times, God, I give him back to you. Like Hannah. Like Hannah. You didn't know all of what you were saying, but I knew. Because, God, if you got a greater plan, I give him back to you. Like Hannah gave up her son. Mary gave up Jesus. Our Samuel, dedicated back to God. And so when you was pleading with God, Lord, let him live, but I give him back to you. God says sometimes you don't know the weight of what you say, but there's not many people like you who will say, I'll give my son and my daughter back to God for whatever God wants. Even if it's for this one night, but it won't be just this one night, because his main name means God saves.
Zay.
Oh my God. Nosy.
It wasn't me, Tiana.
You're so nosy.
No, I'm not, Tiana.
You're mad nosy.
No, I'm not, man.
I see you. Go get my paper towels for you.
You was just crying. Not even
You was talking.
I said, you was crying. Yo, get out.
You was
Get out! I said, see, you play too much.
Yeah, boy.
Yo, what's on your lip? Yo.
When I found out that I was pregnant with Isaiah, I was 3 key kids in. And I had Sean first, then Tiana, then Brandon. So I just knew that Isaiah was going to be a girl. So I went to, my husband and I, Boobie and I went to have our sonogram, and we were like, the lady was saying, do you want to know what it is? Do you want to know what it is? And my husband always gets very anxious around the do you want to know what it is, because, you know, him and the girls, he's like, oh no, a girl, I got to take care of the girl, you know, he's worried about having a girl. So I was like, yeah, I want to know. He's like, no, I don't want to know. Well, we found out it was a boy. And I was like, a boy? What happened to the algorithm? So we went home, and the kids were in the kitchen. So I came home, and I was like, they were like, what are you having? What are you having? What are you having? And Tiana really wanted to know, because she was sick of these boys is dragging her around and doing all kinds of things to her. So
The boys just showing.
Tiana said, not the boys, just showing. So she was sick of them dragging her around. She wanted a girl. So we said to Tiana, what having? We said,
They were acting like it was a girl. So my father comes in looking like he's mad, and my mom comes in looking extra excited, like she's so happy because it's a girl. And I was like, it's a girl, all happy. And they go, nope, it's a boy.
One and only daughter.
And then they start laughing at my face. I was like, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna take care of him anyway. But in my heart, I was like, boy, thanks a lot.
So the funny thing is that I really didn't tell people that I was pregnant with Isaiah. But there were 2 people who knew by way of the spirit that I was pregnant with Isaiah. And that was Mother Ada Blakely and Mother Gertrude Stacks. they knew I was pregnant, and I didn't even tell anybody. I wasn't showing or anything. I was in Humble Heart on a Tuesday. Well, did we have Tuesday night service at that time? And I was in the back of the service. Service was over, and I was probably telling Sean, "Come on, let's go." And Mother Ada said, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "What? How does she know?" Jesus, have you been telling my business? So I was like, "I am, but no one knows." And she was like, "I'm so happy." And she's like, "I'm going to pray for you." So she covered Isaiah in prayer, probably from the moment she knew that he was there. And I didn't tell her. And then there was a revival happening at Humble Heart, and Mother Stacks came, and she was giving out shots and laying people out. And she got to me, and she stopped, and she stepped back. She looked at my stomach. She smiled at me, and she came back, and she placed her hands very gently in my chest. Everybody else was getting like pows in their stomach, and she placed her hands very gently in my chest, and she prayed for me, and she knew I was pregnant. Isaiah was scheduled to be born December 28th was his due date. And Christmas Day came, and I was going about doing my normal Christmas Day thing. The children were up and playing. I was cooking. This is Christmas 2009. My husband was on his game, and we were just doing what we do Christmas time. And at some point during cooking, my stomach started to hurt, and I was like, "Oh no. This feels like a different kind of pain," but I was trying to ignore it because it was Christmas Day. So I was like, no, calm down, stomach, let's go. So I was cooking dinner, playing with the kids with their toys, and at some point I realized that I was not going to be able to ignore this pain any longer. I started secretly timing the contractions in my mind. So I mentioned to my husband, I said, "I'm not feeling well, my stomach is contracting." And he was like, "Well, you got to sit down. You got to sit down. You're doing too much." "Well, who else is going to do it?" I said, "Okay, I'll sit down." My family started to come over, and my uncle Champ was like, "Stop faking and cook dinner." And I was in so much pain. I was bent over the washing machine. At that point, I realized, like, I got to get out of here. So we went to the hospital on Christmas Day. Tiana, Sean, and Brandon was so sad. Like, what are we going to do? And I was like, "It's okay. I'll be back. You guys are going to have dinner. Play with your toys. I'll be back." And we got in the car at 4 o'clock. Matter of fact, it was 3:45. We got in the car. We got to the hospital about 4:30. Isaiah was my fastest labor ever because at 6:45, Isaiah Roderick Alonzo Key was born. Hello? So I'm ready for my close-up. 1, 2, 3. I mean, I got to the hospital, and before you know it, he was there. He came. He was the best Christmas gift ever. That night, as soon as I had Isaiah, as soon as he was born, and the doctor said he was healthy and strong, I got on the phone. I called home and I said, "Can somebody bring me Christmas dinner?" Because I was hungry. I wanted to eat. So they brought the dinner up to the hospital, and all the nurses were like, "Wow, what are you having for dinner?" I was in there by myself. No other mom was in there. Isaiah was uniquely born on Christmas Day. He was different. He was my first chocolate baby. And he came out just as light as the other Key kids. But, you know how people in our community do. We was looking at the finger beds, the ears, and I was like, "I think I got a winner." So Isaiah was uniquely Isaiah. I guess when you think about it, from birth just standing out. Born on Christmas Day, the chocolate one of our group. He was my twin. Isaiah was my twin son.
Zay.
My twin, Isaiah. He looked like his mom. I think he acted like me too.
No.
He was born with muscles.
Yes.
He was a strong baby.
He was a strong baby.
He was born brolic. We used to laugh at him like, what kind of baby got born with muscles? Little brolic baby.
He was brolic. He was very muscular. Like, he had like a... And he fought a lot. And I think he fought so much because of Brandon. He fought a lot when he was little. So he was always... And then he got into Ninja Turtles, and then that was it.
Before Ninja Turtles, he was a street fighter.
Right.
And he would like...
He said, how do you kick? As a baby, he used to... You know how children mimic what they hear? So he would hear me call his dad Booby. And so one day he was getting in trouble and he said, "No, Booby." And we thought that was the funniest thing ever. He was not happy with his Ubi, and his father did not find it funny, but we thought it was hilarious. "No, Ubi." And so he had a good time growing up as a child. He was the baby, and Tiana loved to baby Isaiah. That was like her personal baby doll. She would have him in the tub, doing all kinds of things, and Isaiah, he loved it. He loved it.
Being a fake student in school.
Yeah, he was a fake student with her dolls.
We're 7 years apart, so if he was 1 and 2, how old was I? I had too much freedom with the little boy.
I would come in and she would be teaching Isaiah in the class. And he would be listening attentively, like she was really his teacher.
Isaiah, what is 9 times 9? I don't know. Why? Because I'm bored.
So yeah, it was. They were a cool bunch growing up, and Isaiah used to do things for shock value. And one time I had gotten a call. A guy in the call was at work, and Tiana was like, "Mom," and I'm scary. I'm like, "What? What happened?" She's like, "Isaiah said he had to poop and he pooped on the floor." And Tiana thought it was...
And let's be like, he did it on purpose because he came to me and looking at him, I goes, "Tiana, I pooped." And he was smiling real big, like, he went, I was like, "Okay, so why are you telling me that for?" So he's laughing because he knows what he did. And I'm like, "Why is it stink?" I said, he's laughing so hard like he knows what he did. I get up, I go, he poops next to the toilet on purpose. And I had to clean it up. I was like, "No, you come in here and clean this up." But then my father was like, "No, you have to clean it up." Because my parents at work. And I was so bad because he did it on purpose. He wanted me to find his poop on the floor, which is so nasty.
Boys can be so disgusting. We grew up in a pretty fun household. We laughed a lot. So Isaiah went through his childhood knowing that he was different and he couldn't do a lot of things that most kids do. He couldn't play certain sports. He would run around and then he knew, like, wait a minute, because he couldn't breathe. He had to be able to catch his breath. Asthma robs you of something that most people just take for granted, the ability to breathe. Isaiah wasn't always able to breathe. And so that really limited him on just being a kid. Some of the things he couldn't do, the other kids did. He couldn't just run around the park freely. We had to watch him in the park. Zay, don't run, slow down. Or, you know, maybe he couldn't play basketball or some sort of sport because it would leave him very winded and sometimes it would be more of a problem. So that's probably where his love for games came, because he was able to like play on his video games and really explore and meet people. He wasn't always able to go outside and just ride his bike or run around the corner because it left him winded. And Isaiah had asthma pretty much from about 1 year old. He was diagnosed with asthma. They don't diagnose you with asthma until about a year in. It could be a lot of things. So they kind of like weed out other respiratory issues, bronchitis, but he was diagnosed with asthma fairly early. So Isaiah was diagnosed with asthma as a child, and he took medicine in school. He had his nebulizer in school. In fact, all of his teachers knew Isaiah so well and they took really good. Shout out to PS80 because they did a phenomenal job with Isaiah growing up. Like they nurtured Isaiah like he was their baby. That place held a special place in his heart, in his life. It was really where he got the kind of educational support to help him through his career, his short career of learning. He started off with Miss Leacock, and then he had Miss Fitz, and then he had Mr. Speedbay, and then he had Mrs. Fraser Green, and then he had Miss Walker. But throughout that entire journey, he had Miss Christie. And I'm telling you, Miss Christie loved Isaiah, and Isaiah loved Miss Christie. They loved each other. They had a love thing. And
Isaiah was in kindergarten, and we needed Brandon to stay behind for some lessons, for some extra lessons. But Miss Key said to me when I met with her, he can't do that because he has to take Isaiah home. So I said to her, I'll keep her, Isaiah, so Brandon can stay behind with his teachers and get, the additional help. So I went to Isaiah's teacher and I said to her, Miss Leacock, I remember as if it was yesterday, I'm going to take him. So I stood at my door and I waited, and he came in, and I said to him, I had an outside table. I said, okay, stay right here and go ahead and do your tracings. And he said, I don't know how. And I said, okay. So I took his hand with the pencil and I put my hand over it. And I held his hand and I kept tracing it. And this is how our bond started. Every day he would come and he would sit outside, and I would take his hand and I would trace his letters with him. And I got to tell you, in the mornings I would wait for him. Brandon would be coming in and Isaiah's behind him. And I'd stand in, I'd wait. There'd usually be a little late because Isaiah would come in and we'd go get his treatment. And the nurse's office was right next to mine. So I would wait and I'd say, okay, Brandon, go on up. I got him. Because he would never leave him. And he would hand him off to me, and Isaiah would go in, he'd get his treatment, and I'll walk him to his class. And we did this every day. And this is how our bond became strong. As he moved up, he did better. He would come every lunchtime and he would stay with me. And he would be in my room because, sometimes we were a little nervous for him to be outside in the weather.
It was people that actually knew Isaiah's story. They knew his health challenges, and they protected Isaiah as if he were their own child. They did. Like, Isaiah, it's raining. You're not going out in that rain. Isaiah, it's cold. You got to be buckled all the way up to the top. Like, they took care of Isaiah.
And he would come in and he would start cleaning up. He said, Miss Christie, why do these kids have stuff all over the place? Because he was like a little neat freak. And he would just come and he would just start putting stuff away, and we'd start talking. Sometimes he'll just stay there. We'll just stay with each other. We'd just be. He didn't like you to touch him. If he really, Miss Keys, but if he had that great, incredible laugh where his mouth would be open. You could see the little silver fillings in his mouth, and he would just laugh.
run into these doors, happy, ready, late sometimes. But he was ready. When school was out, he would run to the pizza shop in the small mall. That's where he wanted to go. Mommy, can we go get pizza from the pizza shop? Or my grandfather would pick him up. Big Daddy, can we go to the pizza shop? It was like his everyday thing. Once Brandon left the school. When Brandon was in the school, they went together and then they would walk to their grandmother's house. But yeah.
When we heard about what happened and Tiana came, I couldn't process what she was saying. And then Mr. Key called me and I said, my Isaiah? But anyway, I just want to relate. A teacher came to me and she said, Miss Christie, I'm checking on you because I know that was your baby. I remember years later after Brandon left and went off to middle school, Isaiah was left with me. Miss Key called me one day and she says, you know, he's going to be walking home. I said, no, he's not. I said, I don't even have him walk to the 3rd floor. So I would walk with them to meet Grandpa like 2 blocks down and then hand him off. But just a lovely young man. When Isaiah left our building, he was a top student in his class. And I tell you, as an educator, not only, you know, did we have that educational piece, but we truly had that heartfelt bond. And I so love the Key families. Miss Key always remembers to send me things, you know, a little thank you or to call me. I now have my Taylor. I have Brandon. But we know that he is in a better place. I mean, coming here today, I couldn't write anything, and I just kept smiling to myself because I'm remembering our conversations and our, you know, just the time that we had. And I know I'll keep that forever. He would come back to the school to pick Taylor up, and he took that responsibility so serious. He was holding her hand, and even though she was his height at this point, but he was just guiding her and holding on to her, you know, making sure. And that's the thing I got to say about the Key family. They love fiercely each other. They take care of each other.
PS80 took care of my child, Isaiah Key. They took care of Isaiah. And not only Isaiah, but any child that goes through those doors. It is a very family-oriented school. It's a community, and they make you know it. And Isaiah knew it. He was safe in his community. And so these kinds of educational experiences definitely do add to who a person will be later on in life. It molds, it shapes, it lays a foundation. I'm grateful for PS80. I'm thankful for the staff of Thurgood Marshall Magnet School of Multimedia and Communication because it really did change Isaiah. He loved this place. It was a safe place for him. I'm grateful for PS80 and its staff. Miss Christie, she made a positive impact on Isaiah. And just the overall community of PS80. Children need that kind of safe place outside of their normal home. He flourished at PS80. That kind of concern and love helped to shape him to be who he was and the change he wanted to see within his age group. Yeah.
My love, my heartfelt condolences, but I have my boy in my heart forever. God bless.
Isaiah had to overcome some adverse situations. You know, I remember when he struggled a little bit in school, and so he would do like extra stuff. What do you call this? Like after school, and he had a really, really good school community. And so he was able to pick up, and then he had his brothers and his sisters. And everything is a competition with brothers and sisters. I don't know, I'm an only child. But, you know, they'd be like, come on, Zay, you could do it. You could read this. You could blah, blah, blah. So then he'd be like, okay.
But then sometimes, you know, when you have older siblings, they're like, yeah, we'll help you with your homework. And then they do your homework. And then when the younger siblings don't know what's going on, then you looking around. So one year we was at Isaiah's parents' conference, and his teacher goes, it looks like Isaiah has a older sibling doing his homework, and looks me dead in my face, and I look at Isaiah like, someone's doing your homework? And I knew that it was us. And my mother was like, no, don't. You know, she wanted to defend us, but I knew like, oh my goodness, we're busted. And even when he was in middle school, I took a placement test for him, and it was like, great job, Isaiah. You're college ready. And I was so scared because school was starting soon. And I was like, Isaiah, well, you better get on your A game, because if they don't, they're going to know us to be. I can say it now.
When we were in COVID, oh my goodness, when COVID hit, everything was remote. School was online. Munchie and Isaiah shared a room. When I tell you, these guys, both of them are in their classroom, fully asleep, with the camera on, fully asleep. And I'm coming in their room like, are you kidding me? I'm yelling and screaming at Mom, I'm up. I'm like, you're not up. You're not learning.
Isaiah and Brandon's teachers are saying they're up, and they're telling their teachers they're resting their eyes with the covers on. What do you mean resting your eyes?
How do you say that to your
It's 10 o'clock. It's telling me. Isaiah's telling his teacher, I'm not asleep. I'm listening with my eyes resting. I can hear everything you're saying. And I'm like, Isaiah, get up out the bed before Mom and Dad come down here and look at you.
Yeah, Isaiah was definitely loving COVID, okay? And I guess that was the strange thing, because thank God he never got sick during COVID.
Yeah.
And I was really concerned. And I remember when he was on his way to junior high school. It was a scary time for Boobie and I, because he wasn't used to changing classes and the hustle and bustle. So, because Isaiah suffered with severe asthma, there were some opportunities that he just was not afforded, like walking to school. You know, he didn't get to walk to school. We had to drive him, or he took the school bus or coming home. But he really wanted to be like every other normal teenager. So I would pick him up from school, but or the bus, he would go home. But he would, like, in that little interval before it was time for him to get out of school and get on the bus, he would try to go to the store as fast as he could so he could get like candy or whatever. And one day I had come to pick him up, and he was standing outside with all his friends. They were laughing, and he saw my car, and he was like, no. He was like, Mom, I want to go to the store. I was like, no problem. I'll take you to the store. No, I wanted to walk with my friends. Like, he wanted to walk with his friends and be a normal kid. And, you know, we tried to let him do that as much as we could. Sometimes his dad was, like, concerned. Because Isaiah wasn't, you know, outside, and we didn't want him to, he was a little bit smaller, so we just were cautious. And sometimes out of an abundance of caution. But he loved to walk to the store, go get his own stuff. And then sometimes I would go to the store. I would drive him to the store and let him go in by himself. Even though he was 13, I don't know, somehow I felt the need to baby him a little bit. But he loved to be independent. I remember Boobie and I feeling nervous. I remember Isaiah being so excited to start his new journey. It was in these walls that Isaiah made some very good friends, lasting relationships, and a print on people's lives. He left his print. I remember the days Isaiah would text me and say, "Ma, could you bring me lunch?" Because the food was so terrible. But it was during, like, right after the pandemic, so it was so hard to get in. It was like Fort Knox trying to get him lunch, but we made it happen. We made it happen so Isaiah would have something to eat. It was in this school that Isaiah met his best friend, Jalen. And he met some really great educators in the school as well that pushed him and challenged him. He was ready for high school. When he left IS 109, he was set. He was definitely ready, and he exceeded what his dad and I thought. Some of the limitations that we put on, he just blew him out the wall. He was confident in IS 109. And so we were very adamant about teaching Isaiah at a young age, you know, his triggers, things that would start an asthma attack, what to do, his allergies. He was allergic to nuts, and oh boy, was he pine nuts. So, you know, sometimes I would make brownies and put walnuts, and he would go, "Mom, you made the brownies, and I can't have any because you put walnuts in it. Thanks a lot." And then I'll be like, "Oh no, sorry, Zay." So then I would have to make him cookies, make his stuff on the side. No nuts in Isaiah's. You can't make nuts. Red velvet cake. Do not make red velvet and put pecans on it. Isaiah can't have it. He would be very upset because he was Chef Zay. You know that about him. So I wanted to say about asthma, you know, I'm sure that because Isaiah was so accustomed to not being able to breathe, that he didn't realize the severity of what was happening to him on June 6th, 2022. He didn't realize the severity of what was happening that day. When you are on steroids, which is what he took for asthma, it can affect sometimes your growth. And so he was smaller in stature. And so it was important for me to teach Isaiah to be assertive and to stand up for himself. And I didn't want him to get lost in the crowd. Like, you have a voice, it matters, speak. And because his personality was so, you know, he was very respectful. And I think that sometimes people, and even sometimes people in your family, when they pick up on, I don't want to say a weakness, but to an extent, when they pick up a vulnerability, sometimes they'll play on it. And I had that experience with Isaiah in our family, and not in our immediate family, because the Key kids, you know, the Key fit, it's not gonna happen here. But in our extended family, I was able to see areas of vulnerability in Isaiah, and how sometimes people would take advantage of it. And I was, as a mom, I'm a fierce protector. Like, please do not come for the Key kids. Just leave them alone. And so when I noticed this happening, I was like, Isaiah, you have to open your mouth and you have to speak up. But because he was respectful, he didn't, you know, and especially if it's an adult, sometimes it's hard as a child to navigate. What do I say to an adult who might be, I don't know. I'll reference the movie Madeline. I don't know how many people know because it's such an old movie, right? Yeah, Madeline, when she had the two parents and they didn't really care about what she had to say because they were saying, we're the adults, you're the kid, you don't matter. And, you know, that was not the kind of household that my husband and I were fostering. We certainly expected our children to have respect, but we also valued their opinion as people, and we I think a part of parenting is nurturing your children to think independently, and also, but within a perimeter of what you consider to be a fair contributor to society. And that's what our role, my husband and I, that's the role that we took. So when I noticed that Isaiah was kind of pulling back, now Sean and Tiana, they never really had to deal with that. And Brandon, he was always just Brandon. So he didn't, but Isaiah was different. And so he would let people do things and he wouldn't say anything, but I could see it bothering him on the inside. And so I was really trying to teach him how to stand up for himself, even when it's sometimes an adult. Because, those kinds of doors can open up to other things like child molestation and whatever. So I was very, very serious about letting him know that he had a voice and his voice mattered. And so I say all of that to say that it's important for children to know that sometimes adults make bad decisions and they don't do things right. They don't handle a situation right. What do you do when you're a child and you have an adult saying, you're wrong, you did this, blah, 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 and you didn't do it, or whatever? How do you navigate that? And so I was really trying to teach Isaiah how to navigate those kinds of things and pushing him to be the best Isaiah he could be. And I think it worked, because when I hear stories of him in school, he took a leadership position in elementary school, in junior high school. There was a distinction about him. And the distinction stemmed from things that happened within our family unit that I was able to use as a teachable moment and really develop his character and develop him into, who I was trying to help him become as a young man. And then eventually, at that time, I thought, as an adult man. I know that he wouldn't get there, but that was the goal. Because bad things happen to good people, and honestly, there is no cookie cutter or, this will happen to you or this will happen to him. Things happen. Things happen in our extended family. And sometimes Isaiah was treated, it became like a us against them. And sometimes Isaiah was treated poorly, but he knew that he had a community, like a safe place that he could go to. And his mom and his dad, his siblings, he knew that we would protect him fiercely. And bigger than us, he had God. He knew that he could take these things to prayer, and he did. They were in his phone under things that concerned him, and I'm sure things that he had to pray about. It's important that you have a personal relationship with God too, so that when things happen, good, bad, or indifferent, you take them to the person who can ultimately bring a resolve to them. And that's God. That's Jesus Christ. That's the purpose. That's the whole point of Isaiah's life. As short as it was, the whole purpose of his existence was to bring glory to God. Ultimately, it did. And although we miss him sorely, we're so grateful that God allowed us to be a part of 13 amazing years. We really are. And so what I would say from that is, if you don't have a mom or a dad that you can talk to, or a sister or brother, find someone. If it's someone in school, if you find a Miss Christie, if you find a Miss Gentles, if you find someone in school that you can talk to, or at karate, or find someone that you can talk to, someone who will advocate for you. Isaiah was able to come to us, and when he did, we certainly made sure that the issue was resolved. It's not your weight to bear alone. If you need help, it's okay to say, I need help. And if you're feeling sad, it's okay to say, I'm feeling sad. Acknowledge where you are in whatever it is, and then get help. And again, if you can't find a person, there is a friend in Jesus. And it sounds so cliche-ish, but it really is true. He'll be there for you. Ask me how I know. Because on June 21st, I had to say goodbye to one of my sons temporarily, and he's been there every step of the way. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, that it doesn't hurt. It does not mean that it hurts. Does it mean that I'm happy about Isaiah not being here? It does not mean that. I'm sad. I miss my son. I miss my baby's laugh. I miss him. But God has been faithful, and he's promised that he would send a comforter. And some days it doesn't feel like he's there at all, but he is. He's there.
Oh, yeah. The Bible declares and says that when Jesus was baptized, lo, the heavens were opened up. And God himself said, "This is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased." We baptize you today in Jesus' name. Glory to God. Glory to God. Glory to God. I don't care what the world says about me. I'm going down in Jesus' name. Oh, I'm going down in Jesus' name. Oh, I'm going down in Jesus' name.
7 trumpets blow. It's over for you. You will not be able to escape, repent, pray, or hide. When Jesus comes back, he will ask everybody who spread the gospel. We will all have to say yes or no. He will know if you are lying or not. So please spread the gospel. If you are saying that you will do it later, that's the devil trying to take you over. Send this to a friend that needs this, even if they will hate you. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. Romans 1:16-9. So don't be ashamed of the gospel. It's the word of God. God loves you, and I love you. Have a great day. Don't forget to spread the gospel.
Coming down. I'm going to ask you the most important question. Are you ready? And if you're not assured that if you die tonight, I didn't say do you go to church, because church going won't get you to heaven. I know somebody says, see, I told you got to go to church. No, I ain't talking about that either. But going to church won't get you to heaven. You must receive Jesus as Lord and Master and say he's the only God. And I want him to be my God. Save me. Clean me up. I'll live for you. I will serve you. Give me your spirit. If you want this, God just told me to illustrate what it can look like in heaven. Nothing we didn't have to fix it. Today, I know Isaiah wants me to give the invitation to you. Isaiah's God, who's Jesus. Do you want to be saved? You may have been his friend, his schoolmate, his teacher, his neighbor. Are you ready? People are dying every day. Going from either life to life or life to life. Are you ready? Is there anybody want to be saved today? Will you be ready? Will you be ready?
Isaiah was an evangelist, and I didn't even know. I didn't even know he was an evangelist. I got text messages from people's parents saying, Your son was telling my son about God. Your son was witnessing to my son. And I didn't know. I went back in some of my voice notes, and we would drive to school, and we would have like a contest, and I would say, all right, Brandon, let me hear you, Psalms 23. And then we would go around the car. Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, blah, blah, blah. And I would say, go, who knows it? What's the Lord's Prayer? These little things that I really didn't know were taking root in his life. And we had a tragic fire in our house. And I think that really was the catalyst for Isaiah's change as far as evangelism is concerned, because there was a video that Tiana showed him about dying and going to hell.
The video is called In the Words of Satan. It's about how Satan tricks people into not understanding the way God loves them. And it was just different ways that he masks what God can look like, but it's really a lie. So after Isaiah watched that video, he was like, Mom, is this true? Then I had him watch The Rapture. And his eyes got even more God. He's like, Mom, is this true? And I noticed from that day on that it sparked something in him that he wanted to know more.
And he would come and get my Bible, and I just thought, like, Isaiah is playing around. He wants me to see him playing around with this Bible. I didn't know that he was telling his friends, like, read this scripture or read blah, blah, blah. When Isaiah was younger, he had gotten a prophetic word, and the prophetic word that he was full of wisdom. And throughout the years, I would always remind him, especially when it would get hard in school, I would say, Isaiah, you are full of wisdom. And I would remind him of that. And so I want to make sure that young people know, and in the world that we live in, we see the children, Isaiah, thank God he didn't die at the hand of violence or tragic accident. It was tragic, the attack that he had, but it wasn't a tragic, like, something. But at 13 years old, he entered eternity. And it's important that children understand, because a lot of times children are just like, oh, I'm a kid and I'll live forever. That's not always the case. And if you should leave this earth today at 12 and 13, past the age of accountability, what is your response for eternity? And, I took that very serious with all of the key kids. Them knowing that I can't get you in. As much as I love the key kids, there's nothing that I can do to get them in. It is a personal thing. And so I trained Isaiah up in the way that he should go. And according to the word of God, he didn't depart. And so for that, I am grateful. I'm thankful. So how do I continue that legacy? How do I evangelize in my sphere of influence? Because that's what he was doing. And guess what? Nobody knew. Which is really the way that we're supposed to do it. He wasn't like on any major, like, look at me, here I am evangelizing. He was just doing it. Just planting seeds. And we know that the Bible says one man plants, another man waters, and God sends the increase. And so those seeds were planted in those young people's lives. In those teachers. Do you know we had a teacher come to our car last week in tears talking about what Isaiah did in her classroom? And so that speaks value. And when I think back through some of the adverse times in his life, and like I had mentioned, some of the things that people tried to crush him in his spirit, I'm very grateful that God allowed him to tap into that wisdom that comes from God and really be a light in the midst of darkness. I think Taylor's just starting to realize, though, that Isaiah is not coming back. So she said, I said, what do you want for Christmas this year? And she said, my brother. So that made me very sad.
Don't leave me home.
Made me very sad. And as we get closer to Christmas, I'm not really sure. I don't know. I'm not sure. We're not sure. This is brand new. And the grieving process is something. When we get to the other side of it, because right now we're in not even the middle, we're at the beginning. When we get to the other side, we'll be able to help somebody along the way. Mm-hmm. But it is something. It's hard. It's hard. And we miss Isaiah every day because life will never be the same for us. Life will never be the same for the Key family. It's a new normal, and Isaiah was an intricate part of our family. And I don't know what the holidays will look like without him anymore. And sometimes you say, God, why would you let him be born on Christmas if you knew he wasn't even going to be here? Because how do we celebrate it?
Exactly.
I don't know. Stay tuned, we'll let you know. Because right now we don't have a clue. All we can do at this point is breathe. And imagine yourself on a tightrope. Envision a tightrope where you just put one foot in front of the other and you try to maintain your balance. That is what this level of grief is like. Because June 6th started off as a normal day. Everybody got up, everybody got dressed, everybody went to school, everybody came home from school and work. And we didn't know that we would end that night completely different. And again, you know, when I talk about asthma with children and even adults, because when you have a chronic disease, it becomes normal to you. So you want to pay attention to your body. You want to pay attention. Because at the moment that Isaiah realized that he couldn't breathe when he was in trouble, it was too late. So we really want people to be aware. Because as a mom, when people say, I can't imagine, I don't want you to imagine. I don't want another mom to imagine the pain that we're in. Because even though you see us sitting here, there's an old song that says, it was inside that I cried, it's inside that we cry, literally. And, you know, grief is so funny because you don't want, you know, people in our culture, you know, you grieve, but life goes on. The problem is, for the grieving family, it stops. It stops. And there isn't a manual for how to go on. There isn't a manual for how to go on. And I don't know that you do. I think that you go through the motion of what people expect, but I don't know that you do. It is something that God has to literally carry you through, because at some point you just don't have it to go on. And that's the truth. And you can see people smiling and dressed and laughing because you do have those moments. I remember in the beginning, we couldn't even laugh.
Ain't nothing was funny.
Sometimes you don't remember when you're like in this kind of setting, but when it comes, we thank God for memories that live forever. They live forever. And we're sad and we miss Isaiah, but we rejoice. It's so strange. It's like a thin line, because you're so sad But really, when you know where someone is, like one day I just had to say, how could I be mad that he chose heaven? Who could be mad at that? You know, as humans, we live this whole life to live again as Christians. We live this whole life to live again. That's the purpose. He's just there before us. And when we get there, he'll show us all around. Doesn't mean that we don't miss him here on earth, because we do. He was engraved in our lives. And his transition was unexpected. You couldn't have told me that I would be sitting here without him. Couldn't have told me that. But we gotta keep going. It's a fight. What we fight on. It is a fight. It's a fight. But we fight on. And I hate the devil. Anything, because sickness comes from the devil. So anything that's associated with him, I want no parts of. And if giving up, that's what he wants me to do. That's what he wants the Key family to do. He wants us to give up. Oh, it was a hit. Don't get it twisted. I can't talk to you in a spiritual way like, oh, he's in heaven and we're so happy. No, I miss my son. I miss my third son. I miss my baby boy. I miss his laugh. I miss his jokes. I miss me yelling at him. I miss him putting his stinky underarms in my face. I miss my baby. His dad misses his best friend. So much so that he finds it very hard to be in these kinds of settings. His siblings miss him. When you see us going on, when we are behind closed doors together, we sit and we cry. So I'm not going to paint this perfect picture. Like, grief is not real. Oh, it'll knock you right off your feet. I didn't eat for almost 3 weeks. Nothing. Grief will knock you off your feet. But when you are there at that low point, God has a way. The other day I was driving in my car and I thought about Isaiah's hospital room. It was a hollowed out place. It was hollowed out. And he was laying there fighting for his life. But the presence of God and the peace of God was in that room like you would not believe. And at the time, I couldn't really, I don't think that was not on my mind. But in hindsight, when I look back, I'm like, God, you were there. And that's his promise. Even in that dark hour, he was there. And when the Lord told me that Isaiah was transitioning, because I fought for Isaiah like I would fight for him in the natural. If you tried it with these Key kids, I fought for Isaiah in the spirit. And when the Lord told me that Isaiah was transitioning and I had to let him go, I remember walking into the room and saying, Isaiah, you are full of wisdom. Whatever you decide, I trust you. And I had taught the Key kids, God first, and then your family. So he did exactly what his mother taught him. He chose God first. legacy for me, as this definition gives it to us, is something that's left behind. And so Isaiah leaves behind a legacy of love and evangelism. He was a great kid, a warm kid. First to give a hug, first to be there to help, to listen, to learn. So how do we keep that going? We share this great gospel, and wherever we go, we tell people about the love of God, and we let them know that tomorrow is not promised to any of us. Be you 1 or 99, tomorrow's not promised. As far as Isaiah's legacy is concerned, our motto is Forever Zay. The Key family, our motto is #Forever Zay. Sometimes we say Forever Our Zay, because he really was our Zay. But as we share him with the world, as we share his story, he'll be Forever Zay.
On behalf of the class of 2023, we proudly accept this honor.
Isaiah meant a lot to us, and we loved him. He was a toaster, and he was always running around. But we enjoyed the time that we had with him, and our respectful family were to continue with Isaiah's packing down his award and community. Please take it to love.
Isaiah, 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 Isaiah.
While I don't have the blueprint right now, we've placed our hurt, our pain, all in our alabaster box at the feet of the Father. And we expect that he will get the glory at the end of the day from this. So stay tuned, keep watching.
Forever Zay. Forever Zay.
Forever Zay.
Forever Zay. For some people, it's Christmas Day, but for the Key family, it will forever be Zay Day. Happy birthday, Isaiah. Mommy misses you beyond what words can say. Mwah, happy birthday, Zay. Enjoy your day.
So during COVID, I used to be outside a lot, so I would let my brother stay in my room. And during this time, I'll say Isaiah, he liked to play the game. And he would do anything to avoid leaving to stop playing the game. So.
Oh my God, I know the stories about to tell. This is the worst story in the world.
One day, you know, I decided I was gonna drink a Pepsi that I had left there from the day before. You know, not thinking nothing of it. It was my soda from the day before. So I pick up the Pepsi and I go to take a sip, and I realized that my brother that doesn't like to stop playing the game peed inside the Pepsi can. And I ended up drinking his pee out the Pepsi can.
Oh my God.
So I spit it out my mouth like a movie, like I dropped the soda can and I run up to him like, yo, Isaiah.
But the part that's the most funny, Isaiah was genuinely confused why Sean was mad at him. He was going, what did I do? What did I do? And I'm saying, Isaiah, he just drank your pee. He was like, no, but what did I do? I was like, Isaiah, really? What did you do?
He peed in a soda can in my room, in my soda, and left it there. And I ended up drinking it. So.
And the bathroom was right next door.
And I never got to get him back. I was plotting, but I never
Sean
got to get him
told
back.
him ever since that day, which was last year, I'm going to get you back for peeing in that Pepsi bottle. It was a whole year and he's still saying, I'm going to get you back for peeing in that Pepsi bottle.
Yeah, I never.
I'm telling you, that is the most nastiest thing in the world. So we pick up Isaiah. Isaiah comes home. This man's hairline is pushed back to the middle of his head. And I'm like, why is your hairline pushed back so far? And he's like, I don't know. Brandon told the guy what to do. And I'm like, Brandon.
But the fact that he just sat there and
let this man give him this haircut push. And sometimes he would come home from the barbershop looking the same exact way. And I'm like, did you get a haircut? I think so. I'm like, Isaiah.
I didn't know what was going on.
How about the time Isaiah had grew his hair out? And I asked Brandon to help Isaiah take his braids out.
But the thing is, we've been trying to detangle Isaiah's hair for a long time. Like prior to us even asking Brandon, we was doing it for a couple of days, and his hair just wasn't coming out. He didn't like to comb it out
because he was very tender-headed. So I would say, Isaiah, just cut your hair. You don't have to have hair. You're a boy. He's like, no, I want to have my hair. So Brandon decided that he's gonna.
Before this, Mom and I were saying, we just might have to cut your hair, Isaiah. We just might have to cut your hair, Isaiah. We said it in front of Brandon. Big mistake. Big mistake. Because I feel like in the back of his head, he was like,
that's an idea.
You know?
So I come back and allegedly his hair is taken out. I start combing through it. And I'm like, Isaiah, your hair is short in the middle. Like, what happened? He's like, nothing. So I'm like, I'm combing his hair. I'm like, Isaiah,
exactly how you felt at that moment.
Did somebody cut your hair? No. So I'm combing his
Mom
hair.
has all of us come in and look to see if
So then
Isaiah's
I'm
hair
like,
is cut. But Brandon's the only one.
I start calling
saying,
everybody into the room. Does this hair look like it's cut?
Brandon's the only one who's saying that it doesn't look cut and it's mad short. Brandon's like, nope, it looks fine to me.
So then he would not tell on his brother. Finally, I don't know if we found the hair or something.
No,
there was a way.
My father came and was like, buddy, somebody cut your hair. Isaiah did go through a sticky phase. So he was angry at my dad for telling him, all right, it's time to get in the shower, buddy. He was like, why? How dare you? So now he's mad at my dad. So he forgets he needs a towel when he gets out the shower. But he's not going to ask my father because he's mad at him. But we see him looking for a towel. My dad's day. Don't say nothing. Just wait until he asks me. He didn't want to ask. So he gets in the shower. He washes up. And when he comes out the shower, he comes into my mom's room looking for something like some clothes. And he has pieces of rolled up toilet tissue. All on his chest, his back, because he didn't have no towel. So he rolled up toilet tissue and started drying off. So my dad goes, buddy, you gonna try to dry yourself over toilet tissue? He's like, no, I didn't. But we're all looking at the toilet tissue on him, and we're laughing so hard because he's mad at us, but we see the toilet tissue. And we just said, Isaiah, what in your brain said, the toilet tissue would be a good idea. Just air dry. So that was just a funny story.